And I'm very happy and very honored to say that one such individual was our very own Congressmember Hakeem Jeffries. Please give it up for him. Please give it up. Come on, guys. I need more than that. Come on.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Kabir, thank you so much for hosting us and moderating here today, and to Brother Abu, the president of the center, thank you for once again extending your hospitality to us here today, to these distinguished panelists who I will introduce momentarily, and to each and every one of you from the community. Thank you for taking the time to come out, particularly on such short notice, given the urgency of the events that continue to transpire in the first few weeks of this current administration. We know that this is a situation that not many of us thought we would ever find ourselves in initially, going from a place where for the last 8 years Barack Obama was president of the United States of America. I think he did a tremendous job under difficult circumstances, with enemies all around him, and he left America a better place than the one that he inherited. But we know, of course, that Barack Obama has left the building, and so-and-so has taken his place. And it's a nightmare for many Americans across the country, but it's particularly severe for immigrant families and those in the Muslim American community who have been under attack. And I'm proud to represent one of the most diverse districts in the nation, the 8th Congressional District, a district that includes African Americans, Caribbean Americans, Italian Americans, Asian Americans, Latinos, the Orthodox Jewish community, Russian-speaking Jewish immigrants from the former Soviet Union, and of course, an incredibly large Bangladeshi American community that lives in and around this neighborhood here today. And I'm proud to represent one of the largest concentrations of Bangladeshi Americans in the nation. And I know this is a community that is hardworking, entrepreneurial, spiritually grounded, family-oriented, community-based, and you cook good food. You have added to the gorgeous mosaic that has made New York City the greatest city in the world. And it pains many of us to know that my constituents, our friends, our neighbors, are under such extreme attack and demonization from the Trump administration, going all the way up to the man who occupies 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. And I'm here today with this distinguished panel to provide you with information on a lot of what has transpired and we think will transpire moving forward with respect to the executive orders and the heightened aggressive activity that has taken place, not just at the border, but in cities all across the country, including right here in the Big Apple. But I just want you to know, before I turn it over to the panel, and then we'll sit and take my seat and be happy to answer any questions that are asked, that I'm going to continue to stand up, just like I did when I went to JFK, for those families and individuals who are being wrongfully detained by their own government in their own home country. That I'm going to continue to stand up against hatred and bigotry and ignorance and intolerance and racism and anti-Semitism and homophobia, and I'm certainly going to continue to stand up against Islamophobia whenever and wherever there's time in these United States, particularly when it comes from the person who is currently, at least for the time being, the President of the United States of America. So God bless you, and inshallah, I'm confident that we will get through this together. Let me now introduce the distinguished members of the panel, who are all going to provide some opening remarks, and then we'll turn it over back to Dr. Kabir, who will moderate the question and answer session. We've got no particular seating order, but they can raise their hand in the order that the names have been presented to me. Sonia Khan, the Assistant Attorney General from the Civil Rights Bureau and the Muslim Community Liaison of the New York State Attorney General's Office. Thank you for being here. We've got Lori Davidson, the Organizing Director of the New York City Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. We thank her for being here. Ruthie Epstein, who's the Deputy Director of Advocacy from the New York City Civil Liberties Union. Dealing with the unconstitutional nature of the actions that the Trump administration has taken so far. We've got Ali Hack, Esquire, from the Association of Muslim American Lawyers. Thank you, Ali, for being here. And lastly, we've got Albert Khan, who's the legal director of the Council of American Islamic Relations in New York. It's a very distinguished panel because of their concern for you. They took the time out on short notice to come out on a Sunday afternoon, and I'm thankful for their presence on today. And I think I'll turn it over first to Albert, and we'll just go in that order.
Of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. For those of you who don't know CARE and our work, we are the largest Muslim civil rights group in the country. And we've been active for over 20 years, protecting the rights of Muslims to pray, to go to school, to go to work, all without discrimination. We've fought unlawful surveillance. We have fought against those who will try to chill the right of American Muslims to exercise that most fundamental of freedoms, the right to practice your faith. And we are here to answer whatever questions you have, and just to let you know that along with the people on this panel, we are a resource going forward. If you face discrimination, if you face bullying, if you see Islamophobia, we want to know. One of our main focuses in the coming months is the fight against anti-Muslim hate crimes. We have seen a sobering spike in the number of attacks on Muslim men, women, and children throughout New York City and New York State. But one problem with fighting back against hate crimes is all too often the victims remain silent. And we cannot advocate on your behalf if we don't know about these attacks. So we are urging anyone who is the victim of a hate crime, who has seen a hate crime to take place, to contact us. We are working to establish a network of volunteer lawyers to help people report these crimes, to know that they won't face retaliation, to provide you with the resources you need. And it has had real results. We've had crimes where we saw an individual, an Uber driver, who was brutally beaten, and they did nothing about it. They called it a misdemeanor. They didn't do an investigation. 24 hours later, after we got involved, the crime was reclassified as a felony, DNA testing was done, and soon they had an arrest. But it's not just about putting people in jail. The most important thing is to show what the problem is, because everyone in this room knows that there is an increase in anti-Muslim hate crimes. We know this is taking place, but all too often those in the seats of power say, we don't have the numbers, we don't see the reports, and we can only advocate as effectively as the data documents the problem. In closing, I want to add just one other thing. I know there's a lot of fear out there. A lot of people are hearing rumors, WhatsApp groups that tell you about raids and checkpoints. Fear is as dangerous as any policy this administration will enact. And I urge each and every one of you, don't listen to the rumors, listen to the groups up here. Go and find the actual reports, because if you are afraid to live your life because of the rumors and speculation, that is as damaging as any policy this president could implement. So thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm from the New York Attorney General's office, and I just want to say I actually grew up in a community very much like this one. And I really want to commend the congressman and the community for hosting this type of event. I wish more of this happened when I grew up. So I know that how powerful these links can be. As the congressman stated, I'm an assistant attorney general in our Civil Rights Bureau, and I'm also the Muslim community's liaison for the office. So what that means is I'm kind of a point person for when people have complaints and when organizations, like many of the amazing organizations represented here, see patterns and systemic issues that are happening. They come to the state attorney general's office and we help deal with them. So we don't deal with individual complaints, we don't represent individuals, but we deal mostly with patterns and practices and systemic issues. That's not to say that individual complaints cannot indicate a systemic issue, right? So like if you go to work and you find out that there's no accommodation for anyone to pray, for example, in your place of work, that may indicate a systemic issue that there is no religious accommodations policy, for example. Specific issues of what is happening right now with regard to the travel ban, or also known as the Muslim ban executive order, my boss, the Attorney General Eric Schneiderman, is very, very committed to Muslim community issues, and we are actually litigating the case in Brooklyn that everyone was protesting the night of January 28th. I'm on that team, and I haven't slept in about a month, but the point is that we are litigating that case, and we are here as a resource to listen to any issues that come in the context of any impact that any individual or business in New York is having with regard to that executive order. With regard to the sanctuary cities or the immigration executive order, our office put out guidance to local law enforcement as to how to ensure that they are complying with appropriate procedures, considering that from the top down, these procedures are changing. So we are also very keen to hear about any issues that people are facing in the context of immigration, ICE enforcement, etc. As he mentioned, hate crimes are a big issue for this community, and our office also put out a hate crime guidance to local law enforcement as to how to prosecute hate crimes. But we're also interested in hearing if this issue is happening, again, at a systemic level. Our role is really to try to oversee and make sure each agency and each organization is doing their job properly. So yeah, I think just on a broader scale, I want to just say, again, I am the Muslim community's liaison. I'm heading up our religious rights initiative, and in that context, there's a lot of, I have 1 minute, there's a lot of issues that we can deal with in that realm. So for example, if there's any challenges to zoning when certain religious institutions are trying to be built. So I just kind of want everyone to understand where we fall in this pyramid here, but we're definitely here to help, and thank you again to the Congressman for putting this on.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to Representative Jeffries for bringing us all together and to the Center for hosting us. So I'm honored to be here with all of you. I'm Laurie Davidson from the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs. In just a very few minutes, I'm going to try and take you through a bunch of resources and information, but most importantly, I understand there's been so much fear and anxiety, and I want everyone here to walk out feeling powerful, that you're not powerless and you're not alone, right? That we have a city that has your back, but also that we have each other's back. Right? So I'm going to just take you through, and I have put many resources in multiple languages on the back table, so I encourage you to please take them with you and share them with your neighbors. So I just want to say a little bit of who we are as a city. Right? We are a city of immigrants. 60% are foreign-born or children of foreign-born. So we are the majority. Right? So this city is a city of immigrants. So any policies, any things that the city provides has to support and value our immigrant communities, because that's who we are, that's who's in the majority here. So who we are as a city, we're a city of inclusion, we're a city that sees the strength in our diversity, and we're a city that's welcoming to all. Right? And so how do we take these New York values that everyone likes to talk about, and how do we walk the talk, right? So we walk the talk through our policies, our resources, our services that do support these communities. So I'm just going to run through a few that I think are key and important right now. One is our legal services, free legal services through Action NYC. And you can see all of these are on this one-page document that we did with the mayor and the speaker's office. Action NYC is free legal services in the language of your choice in your community, and it's quality, free, safe legal services. So you call 311, say Action NYC. NY Citizenship, free help with citizenship applications that we partner with in several libraries around the city. We have free language classes through our We Are New York program. And then some of the protections against discrimination. The city's Commission on Human Rights, we have an anti-bias task force, we have a hotline, and we're responding to this uptick that we've seen in hate crimes and discrimination, in particular religious discrimination. So that's another resource. Another important thing we've been seeing, all that's happened since November has taken a huge toll on us emotionally. The city has free mental health hotline and resources in the language of your choice. 1-888 NYC Well. Please call and you can get somebody who can both help you in that moment, 24/7, and also will help you with referrals to continued services. So these are all some key actual resources that can help you, that are free, that are provided by the city, and we encourage you to take part in those. So I just want to close by saying that we have to respond as a community. People are feeling alone. We can't be alone in this. We're going to win this together. So we have to be informed, know our rights, know the resources that are available to us, know that the city has your back, that you have each other's back, that we're organized, and that we're going to fight back. So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ruthie Epstein. I work as the Deputy Advocacy Director at the New York Civil Liberties Union. First of all, I'd like to thank the Congressman and his great staff for putting this event together. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here alongside these incredible panelists. The New York Civil Liberties Union is the New York State affiliate of the American Civil Liberties Union. We have about 80,000 members statewide, 7 offices outside of New York City. We fight in the courts, in the legislatures, and in the streets for the civil rights and civil liberties of all New Yorkers, regardless of country of origin, regardless of immigration status. I just want to take this time to talk briefly about what the ACLU has done since November 9th, and additionally since January 27th, the day that the quote Muslim ban executive order was issued. We were part of the first lawsuit. We filed the first lawsuit with partner organizations challenging the detention at JFK Airport of 2 Iraqis who had already received permission to enter the U.S. legally the day after the Muslim ban. So that was that first lawsuit that was filed. And that lawsuit was filed, I want to emphasize, with fantastic partner organizations, and it was followed by lawsuits across the country in the following couple of weeks, including some by ACLU affiliates and other wonderful advocacy organizations and state governments. In the following weeks, those cases resulted, the dozens of additional cases that were filed, resulted in a temporary stay of the implementation of the Muslim ban, which is where we're at right now, thank goodness. The ACLU is also representing a number of refugee organizations in a legal challenge to Trump's intention to cut the refugee resettlement program in this country. So as you may know, before President Obama left office, he announced an intention to resettle 110,000 refugees in the FY 2017, in the year following. And Trump has indicated an intention to cut that by half. So we are part of a legal challenge to that intention. In DC, we have lobbyists who are supporting federal legislative proposals that challenge Trump's anti-immigrant and anti-Muslim policies, including 2 pieces of legislation that we thank the congressman for co-sponsoring. One is called the SOLVE Act. It would actually just prohibit the federal government from carrying out the Muslim ban. And the other is called the Freedom of Religion Act, which prohibits the barring of immigrants, refugees, and international visitors to this country on the basis of their religion. So obviously, in the current makeup of Congress, those bills don't have a strong likelihood of passing and being signed into law, but we believe it's incredibly important to show resistance and to ensure that our elected officials are standing up for the communities that we care about. In New York State, the New York Civil Liberties Union has been, like my colleagues here on the panel, barely sleeping. It's been kind of out of control, but a couple of the key efforts that we're making right now is supporting work across the state to advance policies to limit local law enforcement cooperation with the Department of Homeland Security. So this is an area where New York City is actually a leader in the country. There are strong limitations on the ability of the NYPD and the Department of Correction to cooperate in federal immigration enforcement. So I think that's something we can be proud of and can draw reassurance from. The rest of the state is not so lucky. Or many parts of the rest of the state. So one of the things that the NYCLU is doing is trying to spread the good policies that New York City has enacted to other communities in New York State. We're also monitoring for litigation opportunities. So like the Attorney General's office, we don't actually take on individual cases. We don't do direct legal representation. When we get calls, we refer to other organizations that can provide legal representation at low or no cost. But we do impact litigation, like the lawsuit that was brought the morning after the Muslim ban was issued. And impact litigation is about identifying cases that we can file in court that would have a systemic impact. So like the Attorney General's office, they're government, we're civil society. We are not always on the same side, but we often are on the same side around issues like this. So we try to advance good litigation, and that's particularly important at this time. So you all are critically important to help us understand what are the concerns and what are the problems that your communities are facing. I'm actually most looking forward to hearing from you all, because that will help us do our work to help you. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Ali Abdul Haq. I am here representing the Association of Muslim American Lawyers. We go by the acronym AMAL, or AMAL, which some of you might know means hope. And inshallah, we're here to bring a little hope to, I don't want to say dark times, but maybe dimming times that inshallah we can turn around with the help of this awesome panel. I'm humbled actually to be next to these organizations and these people who have accomplished so much and fought for our rights as Muslims on our behalf. You have representatives here from the federal level, the state level, and the city level, who are all interconnected. And along with Ahmad, we were trying to all have united for the same goal. So Ahmad has been running around very busy the last month or two around the city, addressing panels, audiences like this, about know your rights, what are the government limitations, what you can expect in the future. And alhamdulillah, this is one of the more diverse, actually, audiences I've been a part of, which is a testament to the congressman for bringing us all together, and all you guys for making this possible. So knowledge is really power in this time. So what we have to offer, please, it's not we're not here seeking re-election. We're not here, seeking donations. It's really 100% sincere for you guys. So maybe there's a fear, after all that's been said. I agree with Albert. There's a certain fear out there, and the fear might be based on ignorance. But whatever. I mean, we're here. We come from countries that aren't so transparent in their government, so we're a little suspicious of the government. So maybe that's where Ahmad comes in. Unlike my fellow panelists, we actually are private attorneys who are looking for individuals who we can help. Either we can represent themselves, we can represent them, or we can refer them to our network of attorneys who can help to represent them. So whereas my colleagues are looking for impact litigation, we're looking to help the individuals. So come to us. We are on the web, www.theamad.org. We try to be as cost effective as possible in our referrals or taking cases. If we can do it pro bono, we'll do it pro bono. But that's who we are. We've been around for about 15 years now. I was actually one of the founding members myself of the organization, and I've personally watched it grow, along with the Muslim community in New York. Since 9/11 to now, it's kind of been a microcosm of our community. The organization has been a microcosm of growth of our community. So as the community has grown, we've also grown. And we look forward to helping. So any questions, feel free. Anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, I'm here. But please, we have, in this country, we have a voice. Okay? We can choose to exercise the voice, or we can choose to stay quiet. We exercise the voice that empowers not only yourselves, but organizations like CARE, and like the State Attorney General, like ACLU, NYC. That empowers them as well, not just us. So everybody benefits from our voice. So please, let's be heard.
What a person should do at the airport, asking, are you a Muslim? Or holding in the airport, what we do. So basically, what they should do if they are being detained or if they're being told, are you a Muslim? So who would like to take that one? I hope an attorney will take it. All right, going once, twice? Yeah.
Sure.
Albert, here we go. Yeah.
So it is illegal to discriminate against someone's entry to the United States on the basis of religion, and we need to make that very clear. And for United States citizens, you have a lot of rights at the airport. Not as many as in other contexts, but we want to always be clear about this. If they ask you about your name, your address, things like that, you do have to answer. Because at the border, we all have to help with customs and immigration. But if they start asking you about your faith, about your political views, about things of that nature, and you're a U.S. citizen, you can definitely say, I choose to remain silent. And if you do hear those questions, we want you to tell us about it ASAP. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you still have the right to do that, but it can come at a cost. So we always like to make this very clear. If you refuse to answer those questions, they potentially can deny you entry. And so it's something that, it's very tricky, and it's really a question of what your comfort level is. Generally, we advise people, if you're not a citizen, that you should answer those questions and then report them to CARE. But our job here isn't to tell you what to do. This isn't legal advice. This is just a question of telling you what your rights are. So again, to keep it simple, U.S. citizens, you can refuse to answer those questions and they'll still be required to let you in. Anyone else, if you refuse to answer, it can come at a cost. So there's a question of whether you can record the interrogation in CBP. It is important to know you do not have access to your cell phone when you're in the CBP controlled area of the airport. So one thing we always tell people to do, call ahead of time. Call when you're still on the plane. Tell your loved ones, I just landed, so they know if you're being detained and they can get in touch with a lawyer and get you help. Because if you're in that CBP area and you need help, you aren't going to be able to make the call.
Thank you, Albert. The next question will be for the representative from the City of New York to answer. What the Bill de Blasio administration is doing to protect those databases that he has created for NYC, ID NYC, and if there's any other database that we don't know of, what is being done to protect those databases?
Sure, and one thing that I forgot to mention is that there's an IDNYC site opening nearby in Brownsville, and I do encourage everybody to get the card. So I know that there's a lot of concern about the data and a lot of fear. I think there's heightened fear all around. What we did in early December is we stopped storing any of the documents that you present to get your IDNYC. So one thing we feel strongly about was that your data was safe before that, but now we've taken extra precautions and we're no longer retaining any of those documents. So that, I think, should help people feel confident and safe. We are still waiting on a decision on the court case around this, but just so you know, we had already, before this case was filed against us, we had already taken measures to revamp our system, and we are, the way that the law works is that we were required to dump that data and make a decision and dump that data after 2 years. And so we were in the process of doing that when we were prevented from complying with our own law. We are very confident that we'll get a favorable decision, but we also want to know that we did change the way we operate our procedures so that we don't have to retain the documents. So I encourage everybody to get the IDNYC. At the Greg Jackson Center, 519 Rockaway Avenue, we're going to have a temporary pop-up enrollment center. I think another reason why IDNYC is a valuable resource right now, this is a government ID that's not going to say that you are from anywhere but New York City. And I think that that's an important, valuable document to have right now. In addition to all of the other benefits of it. So, like I said, we're confident in the data security of IDNYC data and other data that we collect.
And also, there is no information regarding immigration status in that application form. There is no information.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. See, we have already a very knowledgeable crowd here. We don't collect immigration status. We don't want to know that when you're applying for the IDNYC, and that is not part of any of the information that we've retained. We have almost 1 million New Yorkers who have an IDNYC, many who are citizens and have no issues on that front. So this is one card that is for all New York. Like I said, it's almost 1 million New Yorkers' information. We're confident we will protect that data, and we don't have anybody's immigration status that we've collected. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This one is for our honorable Congress member. As you know that the son of legendary boxer Muhammad Ali was detained in Florida just because his name was what, guys? Muhammad Ali. So, Congressmember, the question came from the floor. Do you plan to bring in any legislation at the federal level to stop this kind of profiling based on religion?
Well, thank you for that question. I've actually had the experience myself of being detained because my first name is Hakeem. And obviously I'm an African American and we have our own issues as it relates to racial profiling. But profiling of any nature is un-American, unconstitutional, and unconscionable. And it's completely unacceptable. When in the prior administration, there was a Muslim surveillance program that was put into place by the NYPD. Many of us fought tooth and nail, along with a tremendous number of legal advocates, some of whom are at this table, to denounce it and eventually lead to its deconstruction, which has taken place under this current administration. And I gotta say that when our president, I should say, when I say our president, y'all know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
When our president was in the process of making a decision about a new Homeland Security Secretary a few years ago, there was a name that was floated out there, and it was Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. And he was viewed as the front runner to become the new Homeland Security Secretary. And several of us in the Congressional Black Caucus publicly stated that under no circumstances should President Obama choose the architect of stop and frisk and the unconstitutional Muslim surveillance program to be the nation's top Homeland Security Secretary, and he will stop. And so public sentiment does play a role in trying to make sure that public policy is moved in the right direction. And the only reason I raise that is because we understand right now that Democrats aren't in the majority in either the House or the Senate. And so while we will continue to resist through putting forth every legislative maneuver and effort that we can to try to bring progressive pieces of legislation forward, this is an all-hands-on-deck approach that's going to require advocacy at the city, state, and federal level here in New York City, which is what is represented at this table, as well as work and partnership with the community, as well as work with the tremendous and brilliant legal minds that have rallied to the cause to resist the outrageous and unconstitutional behavior that we've seen already from this administration. And this last point I'll make is that there really shouldn't be any legislation necessary on the issue of religious discrimination, because it's in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution that the government is prohibited from establishing and favoring one religion over another. And the travel ban was designed to the detriment of Islam and that faith. And thankfully, that's why, in part, the Ninth Circuit struck it down. And any subsequent efforts to engage in discriminatory behavior inconsistent with the First Amendment, we will fight with everything that we have.
Thank you, Congressman. But this is a question really hit home. Really does. And we really need to look for this answer. This is a great question. In my mind, this is the best question. And by the way, I'm a teacher, so I know how to grade stuff, okay? All right? So I'm going to read this word by word, and I don't know who's going to answer this. And I hope you really have a good answer for this one. How can our children handle this problem when other children are telling them the ICE is coming to get you? So who is for this challenge? All right, so we have a taker. So we have
Okay. So yeah, I mean, that's bullying and harassment in school on a lot of levels, not just saying ICE is going to take you, but there's a lot of anti-Muslim bullying, a lot of bullying toward anyone who's perceived as Muslim, so Sikh, Hindu, and really many other communities. So in that context, what our office has done is we've worked with the New York State Education Department, and we've put out guidance to school districts, local school districts, to advise them on how to deal with bullying and how to deal with those situations. With regard specifically to the ICE issue, our office, I believe, did put out a letter in conjunction with the New York State Education Department this week addressing this issue exactly. So what I can say from my perspective, or from our office's perspective, is that we are very well aware of this issue, and we're working on this issue on the agency level and dealing specifically with the New York State Department of Education.
Thank you so much. Let's go.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that we've been working very closely with the Department of Education on this at the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, and that the Chancellor sent out a letter home to all families along with an FAQ answering specific questions and addressing fears that a lot of families have. In addition to that, we've expanded our Know Your Rights workshops and legal clinics that we do in partnership in New York City schools. And so we're trying to get information, resources, and have that conversation started in the schools. And then just on a personal note, as a parent of a public school student, like I said, there's part that the city can give resources and assistance, but there's also that piece, that community piece of where do we look out for each other and where do we stand together. At my son's local school, we organized an action at drop-off time, where we gathered together all the parents and we stood outside with our signs, no ban, no wall, everyone welcome here, handed out resources, and there were tears in eyes of people when they were walking up, so moved by this emotion. And the principal liked it so much, she asked us to do it again. And so I feel that that was something that we turned around in just 12 hours by doing a little Facebook post. And so, I encourage that, there's so much that the city can do, and then we have to turn and look at our neighbors and come together as community. Right? So that's one way I would recommend creating that safe space for your neighbors and looking for ways to support that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. My advice to the students would be to tell the parents, and then my advice to the parents would be go down to the school and talk to the administrators. And then my advice would be after that, if the administrators don't do anything about that, come talk to us. And we'll have a strongly worded letter ready to go.
So guys, there's a slight change in our plan, is that okay? So what happened, I went to the airport and I'm waiting for my wife, or husband, or my mom, dad, or in-laws, my relatives, and they don't show up. The flight came and gone. What action can they take? What course of action can they take? Can you share some information on that as well? As I'm quite sure you guys are going to give us some numbers as well.
So CARE New York has been responding to these calls, as many of these groups have, on a rolling basis since the ban went into effect. And we've been responding at every hour of the day and night. So if someone is more than 15, 20 minutes later than everyone else getting off the plane, call us immediately. Or I want you to take out your phones right now and save this number so you have it. Time is of the essence, because the longer people are in Customs and Border Patrol interrogation, the bigger the chance is that they're going to sign a paper that they shouldn't, that they're going to say something they shouldn't, that they're going to hurt their rights. All right, so our number is 646-665-7599. Again, 646-665-7599. And we're not the only ones. If for whatever reason we don't respond instantly, CUNY Clear also has resources. I'm not sure if Meg Lou is taking his call. Okay. So CUNY Clear is another one. I don't have their number offhand. But I want you to have at least 3 or 4 numbers that you can call instantly. Everyone should have a plan for what happens if there's a delay, and we want to be a resource if you have that need.
Just one thing I forgot to mention, how to contact our office. The email is actually civilrights@ag.ny.gov. And you can also just Google Eric Schneiderman, go to the website, and all the information is there.
Just one addendum to Albert's good instructions. Anyone who is detained at the airport in secondary inspection or otherwise should not sign anything without the presence of an attorney. So that's a piece of advice to relay to family members, friends who might be on the other end of your waiting.
And let me also just add that I think it was 4 weeks ago to the day when I was finished up 2 church services, and most recently I was at the St. Paul Community Baptist Church on my way to a third, which is around the corner, Greater Bright Light, when I got the call that there was concern at JFK that individuals who had been unlawfully detained were going to be put back on 1 p.m. flights and sent back to the Middle East. And so I diverted from that church service and made my way over to JFK and spent the afternoon there trying to make sure that we could reunite the Muslim American families who had been unnecessarily and viciously divided at the airport. I say all that to say that if all else fails, call our office. And I'm a full-service congressman, and if the need exists for me to come to JFK again, I will come to JFK again on your behalf.
So at this time, we're going to open up to the floor, so I don't see any line there, so yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, panel. I'm also part of the Masjid Shura of New York. My question is two questions. One, this hate-mongers, orange-headed person, to take off him, we have to take off the Congress and Senate. As a Congressperson, what do you suggest we should do? Because without that, we cannot stop him. And without stopping him, he will be creating hatred in media, you name it. Number two question is that last Friday, we had a Jummah prayer in front of New York Attorney General's office about the brother who was killed 2012, Abu Dua. So there was Imam Kanate was giving his speech, and he called a lot of masjids to come for Jummah prayer. We're only about 5 people, another 50 people are non-Muslims. And everybody was saying that Muslim doesn't want to come in front of the attorney office only because of the Muslim. How among the Muslims is a very much resistance among themselves to go out and talk, and so what should we do as Muslims to stand up for our rights? Because first of all, we have language issues. Second issue is that we are afraid. And third issue is that we are ISIS are knocking our doors. So how can we really stand for our rights? These two questions. Thank you very much.
Let's answer that question.
Let's answer this question. We'll get back. We have one brother right here.
Well, first, with regard to how we can change the Congress and Senate, I think one of the biggest things is voting. If you can vote, vote. And I'm sure the congressman will elaborate on that. But with regard to the fear of being Muslim right now, I mean, I know I can say for myself, it is important to work within the system and work and make sure your voice is heard. It's also important to differentiate between the federal government and the state government and the local government. The state government here, so the state attorney general, Eric Schneiderman, is very much here to help and listen. And it's just important to understand all the branches, understand the roles of every single agency. And again, for our office, we are also, in court on the Brooklyn case that was mentioned before with regard to the 2 Iraqis who were trying to enter the U.S. We're here, we're on your side, and some of us are even working within the government. So just remember that as much as you can.
I wanted to say something especially for the Muslim men and women who are U.S. citizens, because I know the immigration fear is pronounced for those of you who maybe don't have status or there are complications. But for U.S. citizens, Donald Trump cannot come and take away your freedom of speech. He cannot come and take away your right to travel. He cannot take away those core rights. But the fear he is spreading can strip you of those rights. And it's by fighting against that fear and standing up and giving your voice and being present that you defy him and you strip him of that ability to silence the thousands of Muslim citizens who would otherwise be afraid to take part. And so I think it's really clear that while we need people to know their rights, we need everyone to be as well educated in how to assert your rights, you also, part of fighting back is simply showing up and being heard.
Thank you. And so with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs and along with the Mayor's Office also has a new Center for Faith and Community Partnerships. We've been doing a lot of work also along with CCHR. So one thing is, how do we get positive images out there? So I don't know if any of you saw the I'm a Muslim campaign that we did, and that I think is like a very effective way to put to, what we talk a lot about, like normalizing our diversity and our different faiths and what it means to be Muslim. So that's one campaign that we did that to work towards that end. Another piece we're doing is we're doing a lot of faith organizing. So we are working to do a whole weekend of action with our faith leaders this coming weekend, where we're going to have all of these resources that I have on the back table, that people are going to sign up and distribute these resources, and also give a message of inclusion and support for our immigrants and what they're going through right now. So that, if we would like to bring the center into that weekend, we would love for you to join as well. Another thing that we did was we did a day of action supporting our Muslim communities, and we focused on areas where there were concentrations of people from the 7 banned countries. We were out in the morning at subway stations giving out resources and materials in multiple languages. So I think we want to have some visibility, right? And I think this goes to what you said about not retreating. This administration has done everything to bring people out of the shadows. Excuse me, and we don't want to retreat. We want to stay visible, stay bold, and also stay united and support each other.
I just want to acknowledge the last part of the question that we just heard, which was about what if ICE comes to your door, which is sort of the flip of staying visible. But so that folks know, if ICE or the police comes to your door and asks you to come in or demands to come in, you should not open your door until you're presented with a judicial warrant. This is very important. So ask whoever is knocking at your door to slip their business card underneath the door, to slip the warrant that they have. Ask them if they have a warrant. If they do not have a warrant signed by a judge naming a person in your home, you do not have to open the door.
Just to wrap up that question, one, despite what the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the hater-in-chief, may think, it's not a dictatorship, it's a democracy. And we're fighting to preserve that democracy, but the elements of it are that at the federal level, there are 3 branches of government. There's the executive branch, which he does control at the moment. There's a legislative branch of which many of us are a part of, including the person who currently represents you here in the 8th Congressional District. Yes. And there's the judicial branch, which, at least to date, has checked the administration in terms of their unconstitutional overreach. So I think it's important to communicate to the community that all of the government is not your enemy. At the federal level, and beyond that, because of the system of federalism that we have here in America, you've got federal level of government, which I just talked about. You've got the city and the state, both represented here today. And whether it's the Attorney General, Eric Snyderman, whether it's the Governor, Andrew Cuomo, whether it's the Mayor, Bill de Blasio, these are all offices and individuals that have your best interests at heart. So it's going to be important to distinguish between who you interact with as it relates to dealing with governmental officials and not retreat. And to the point of being concerned in the community about coming out and interacting, it's a concern that we understand, which is why we made the decision to have this town hall meeting here at the Masjid between the 4:15 prayer and the 5:40 prayer, to make sure that we can maximize, at least in terms of our initial engagement, the number of people who participate so you can get the information, begin to distribute it, and this is something that we, of course, will continue to do.
One question right here.
Thank you, Congressman. Probably this is for Congressman. Since the election and the oath of the president, we see people are on the street. They are protesting, they are getting arrested, and so many things going on. But we don't see much of visibility of the Democratic Party. Well, political issue has to be dealt with politics. Law has to be dealt with law. They are doing, thank you very much, very good. But this country has a crisis already. When the president is tweeting and telling who leaked those stuff, we'll find out why he's tweeting. These people are working for his order. So he has a problem. So I think the Democratic Party should stand up and play proper role, because people are behind them. So please convey this message. We don't know much, because this is not a joke. The countries we came from, we know. We know those situations. Democracy, human rights, no, it could be changed overnight. So please, Democratic Party should play a proper role. A weak opposition party is a disaster for the nation. So this is common, and why they are not visible, please can you share some thoughts?
Well, I appreciate that question. It's a very important observation. I do think I can speak for members of the New York delegation and many members of the House Democratic Caucus. We are going to resist this president at every turn. At every turn. Until our long national nightmare is over. Now, I made the observation the other day that this president is the greatest threat to democracy that we've seen since Richard Nixon. And someone pulled me aside and said, that was a pretty good observation, Jeffries, but I've got a better one for you. I said, a better one? I thought Richard Nixon was a pretty low bar. I said, no, he's the worst threat to our democracy since King George and the founding of the Republic. Because what he's attempted to do is really unravel all of the institutions that have made us the envy of the world in terms of our democracy. In terms of pushing back against them, I'll leave policy aside, because I think what troubles many of us in the Congress, and I sit on the Judiciary Committee, is what we believe has transpired as it relates to the entanglement of Donald Trump, his cronies, Vladimir Putin, and the Russians in terms of interfering with our democracy. This is a serious thing. And Richard Nixon once said that America deserves to know if their president is a crook. I never thought I'd agree with Richard Nixon, but I agree. We need to know if Donald Trump is a crook. And the only way to do it is to investigate him with all of the resources that are available. And we plan to continue to push the envelope on that in the Judiciary Committee. Because this is not simply speculation. 17 different intelligence agencies concluded that the Russians interfered with the election for the purpose of helping Donald Trump. As early as December of 2015, top Trump cronies like Carter Page and Paul Manafort and Roger Stone and Michael Flynn were in regular communication with Russian intelligence agencies at the same time the Russians were hacking into our election. We know that the RNC platform was the most pro-Russian in the Republican Party's history. We know that the former National Security Advisor broke the law in communicating illegally with the Russian ambassador in December of 2016. We know that he then resigned in disgrace after lying to the vice president, who then communicated misinformation to the American people. We know that the president will go after our allies like Mexico and Australia, but refuses to say a negative word about our sworn enemy, Russia and Vladimir Putin. In fact, we're convinced that what he really wants to do is to make the Kremlin great again. And so if you put all of it together, including the most recent obstruction of justice that just, in the view of many of us, took place when the White House Chief of Staff attempted to get the FBI to publicly cover up what was taking place. This is a very serious matter. And the American people deserve to know, what did Donald Trump know, and when did he know it?